I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. A couple of years ago, Tom and I stumbled across a band that was getting a lot of hype on at the time, because this band had just released an album that was heralded as being one of the better albums of 2011. Mm-hmm. This is an American indie folk, indie rock band from Texas. They are Okkervil River. Mm-hmm. Okkervil River. If you guys saw our review of I Am Very Far, their 2011 album, which was their 6th album, we weren't the biggest fans of it, and we got a lot of backlash from some of our YouTube friends, loosely, just because when you don't like an album and you're a music reviewer, a lot of fans will lash out, and that's totally cool. We're all entitled to opinion. To preface their newest album, our review of their newest album, the Silver Gymnasium, which just came out a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Okkervil River is a band that Tom and I, that have a sound that I think a lot of people find to be very appealing. And that's totally awesome. I totally get into this sound a lot. But however, just because we review albums all the time, I think that we find things in albums that other people may or may not hear. Not that that's a good or bad thing for anyone. It just is what it is. And the fact is that those things can sometimes bother us to the point that it affects our listening experience. Mm-hmm. The key to listening to music, in my mind, it's all about how you analyze the listening experience. An album that a music reviewer finds to be good or bad doesn't have any relevance to you if you find it good or bad. That's all that matters. If you enjoy or don't enjoy the listening experience, that's what music listening is all about, and that's for you to decide, not a music reviewer. So with that in mind, Okkervil River is just a band whose sound I struggle with. Yeah. I don't know about you, Tom.
I struggle with it.
So when the Silver Gymnasium came out and we started listening to it, preparing for this review, I had to brace myself. I try to separate myself as much as I can from all of these preconceived notions about a band and their sound and the artists and the history of the band. And Okkervil River's been around for a while. They've been generating a lot of buzz the last few years, gaining a lot of fans, playing a lot of festivals. Even our local 8035 a couple years ago they played. Tom, you got to see them live.
Yeah, it did. They put on a good show.
Yeah, I imagine they would put on a very good show.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I still wasn't a huge fan of their sound, but live it brought an energy that I didn't quite connect with on their records.
Right, and I would totally imagine that to be the case. Now, when I listen to the Silver Gymnasium, what I hear a lot of folk, Americana-inspired indie rock. Something that, I would hear a lot of comparisons to, Plants and Animals, Deer in the Headlights, Drunk Like Bible Times. Yep. That was an album we reviewed a couple years ago that we really, really liked. What you have is very passionate vocals. Yeah. Almost kind of like Titus Andronicus on
I would definitely make that comparison. I mean, not quite the crazy energy that the guy from Titus Andronicus
the drunken energy that we always hear.
But some of the mood is the same, some of the production values and instrumental presentation is kind of the same as
you hear a lot of just traditional indie folk rock or rock sound where you have guitars, but you also hear a lot of piano and you hear horns, sometimes even a little bit of synthesizer are used in some of these tracks, which is a bit of a twist. I definitely enjoyed how they were able to mix some of that.
I thought it sounded pretty smooth, really. It's not something that stuck out to me as really conflicting with the sound they were going for. I think they made that work.
And a lot of vocal layers and harmonies, and that was something that persisted on their previous album, I Am Very Far, and on the Silver Gymnasium. It was something that I complained about on I Am Very Far, and something that I'm going to complain about again today. I feel like the vocals on the Silver Gymnasium are a huge roadblock to appreciating the sound that they're presenting. Here you have this really kind of authentic, down-to-earth, gritty, kind of dusty sound that they're going for. This very it's just an appealing sound to me. I like a lot of artists in this genre, and yet you're putting out these really passionate vocals that just sound off-key. When they harmonize, it gets really bad. It just sounds awful, and I think it totally distracts from all the good things that Okkervil River is doing.
And you know who does the same thing? Bruce Springsteen. And I swear to God, I'm the only guy in America who does not like Bruce Springsteen at all.
Wow, we're not making any friends.
No, we're not. We are pissing off the entire music community, I'm pretty sure, right now.
That's alright.
This guy doesn't like Springsteen. I'm going to watch porn or something, whatever.
He's the boss.
Yeah, he is the boss. Well, if he's the boss, then I quit. I don't want to work here anymore. I don't like the guy. I think that embodies it, though, that it's that passionate vocal presentation with a complete disregard for pitch and some of those, more aesthetic qualities that you look for in a vocalist. Now, I understand that because it's about mood. It's about connecting with a certain demographic and providing a nostalgic quality. It's actually something that we saw the Arcade Fire do on the Suburbs.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, God, you listen to that album, it's got Springsteen all over it. So much Springsteen influence.
But they still made it their own. They still had really good presentation in the vocals and in the instrumentation.
They made it their own, and more than anything, they were able to make that emotional connection, and I think they were able to hit that home pretty well and make a statement. I don't feel like Okkervil River really does that on the Silver Gymnasium.
Right.
I never really get, not that there has to be a story, not that there has to be a narrative or characters or anything that extensive, but I just want something to connect to, and I never really got it. I could tell that some of this stuff was personal to the vocalist, but it never really came through to me, and it never really tried to establish enough of a consistent statement that I could really get it. It's like once I started to understand it for one moment, it would completely jump ship.
Right. Well, there is a lot of lyrical theming and motifs going on in this album. However, I felt that it was really hard to get through the vocals, the low quality of the vocals, in order to attach to yourself, to be able to even get through that filter.
Yeah.
And one thing that Tom and I talk about all the time on Velocities of Music is the idea that music and reviewing music and understanding music really is all about breaking it down into different fundamental pieces, whether that's the songwriting and the instrumentation, the song structures, the vocals, the lyrics, taking all these different pieces and placing prioritization upon each of those pieces. I value songwriting here. I value mood here. I value lyricism here. I value vocals here. The thing with me, in my personal opinion, is it takes a lot to get me to not like a vocalist, but I'll tell you what, as soon as I get a vocalist that just rubs me the wrong way, I just turn off. And it makes it really hard for me because I feel like the vocalist in a lot of these, in rock music in general, whether that's indie rock or rock and roll or heavy metal or whatever genre, subgenre of rock music it is, I feel like vocals are the centerpiece that kind of holds everything together often, with the exception of like post-rock or indie music.
Where the vocals just aren't there. Yeah.
So if you have this one thing that's kind of this piece, the wireframe that holds everything together, I feel like it really takes a big hit on how everything else flows together. However, there is one more big issue I did want to point out. I feel like the Silver Gymnasium has just some of the worst production I've ever heard.
It's
I
pretty
feel
rough.
like they couldn't, it's like they were trying to make these instruments sound terrible. Like everything just sounds just muddled, like you're on it, like it's like the horns when the trumpets come in, it's like they're under like they're playing in like a cave of elephant dew, and they're trying to like blow notes through the dew.
If I could try to articulate your point a little beyond the elephant dew, if I may step in to do that.
You're gonna step in the dew?
I see what you're referring to, and what I think it is just that when you have an album with so much instrumental complexity and layers, you need to provide definition.
Yeah, they're doing all sorts of things.
Yeah, they really are. But because of that, you can't hear the definitions between tracks. You can't even really hear that much definition between each part of the drum set, for God's sakes. I mean, it works in like grungy, dirty punk music because it's just guitar, bass, and drums anyway.
It's a small instrumental.
But when you have a very complex instrumental arrangement, lots of lead guitar parts that are doing very specific things, then you need to have clear enough production to provide definition to let those tracks and those layers seep out and do what they're supposed to do. Otherwise, you're just you're banging your head against the wall. You're going against yourself.
Right.
And then the whole plan just backfires.
Absolutely. And I feel like that these guys offended that throughout the entire album. Now, there was a couple of songs in here that I felt excelled more than the others. Track 4, Pink Slips. Track 8, Stay Young. That song had a really nice synth part to start the song.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of The Cure, believe it or not. And that's a really weird musical comparison or to draw from when you're analyzing a folk band or an indie rock band. Anyways, that song I found to be particularly good. And the closing track, Black Nemo, I thought was actually quite good.
Yeah.
It was a softer song that captured a lot of really good energy. These guys are talented songwriters. They have an ability to and I think that's what a lot of people find so attractive about Okkervil River and is what showed about the Silver Gymnasium. They have a lot of strengths to their sound and how they approach songwriting. I just feel like it's how they go about presenting it, both in the vocal rehearsals and in the actual production that they really just missed the boat on, and I think that it makes the whole listening experience kind of go off the rails for me. Now, that doesn't mean for you guys that you can't love this album because you don't necessarily hear or care about the same things that Tom and I care about. And that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Keep in mind, these are just our opinions of things that were like impediments to our listening experience that we couldn't get over. Now, I gotta say, I wasn't a big fan. However, some of the things that they were doing, I did like. Tom, I did notice that you had a lot of the same track picks, so I know that we're probably pretty similar on this. I'm going to go 67 on this album.
I'm going 66.
Okay, so upper 60s means it's an album, it has some good qualities, but a couple key things kept it out of being what we would consider a good album, and therefore probably wouldn't recommend this to you. However, if you've been a fan of Okkervil River in the past, or like music of this genre that is Bruce Springsteen influenced, kind of indie folk, indie rock, Plants and Animals, or even Titus Andronicus, stuff like that, if you like that stuff, Okkervil River is a band you should check out. And the Silver Gymnasium is probably a pretty good album. I think this is getting pretty rave reviews, and Tom and I are significantly below those reviews. And that's okay, it happens sometimes. We're really interested in your guys' feedback. If you would please leave us a comment about the Silver Gymnasium at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic, which is probably where you're watching this. Or please leave us a comment at our Facebook and Twitter accounts. We'd like to get your thoughts and feedback there, and hear your requests for 2013 albums or albums from just anywhere along the years of music. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
The world goes to its work and it is not gentle in what